that fire right there, that represents what I want to do to student papers sometime, which should be unfortunate since all my students submit their papers electronically now. But this weekend, that was the second weekend of the semester. First semester that my law courses had to turn in case briefs. And a significant portion of the students did fine. And they're going to be fine this semester. Some of them are going to be more than fine. But I had far too many students that just don't want to read the instructions. For example, case briefs in my law courses. I have a template for them to follow. Shows them, gives them, all they got to do is download the template, replace the generic text with their text, and they don't have to worry about formatting. They don't have to worry about font size or margins, and they can just type. And the template has a very reduced version of the instructions in it, so it can remind them. And then there's the detailed instructions that are written that I've refined over the last couple of years. So, this time around, I think I've been teaching criminal law and procedure. Procedure for a couple of years. This is the first semester I've taught criminal law since I was at ETBU, so 7 years ago. But for the last couple of years of teaching criminal procedure, I've been refining my instructions for how to write case briefs. I started with the format that my old professor and good friend, the late Dr. Ronaldo Del Carmen, designed. And it's the same case brief format that I had as an undergrad at Tarleton State when the only relationship I had to Dr. Del Carmen was that he wrote the textbook that my professor was using. And then I got the honor to be one of Dr. Del Carmen's students. Tough professor. One of the very, very few professors to give me a B on a paper. He did twice. I think, might have been he, but probably the only one the entire time I was in the doctoral program. Tough professor, fantastic gentleman. I miss him a great deal. But then I've refined it because students are a little different than I was over 10 years ago when I was an undergrad, and certainly even different than when I was a doctoral student. But still, this thing where students aren't reading the instructions completely is slightly new in the grand scheme of things. And it's pretty disturbing. See, I've got, like I said, I have the template for them to follow. I've got written instructions. I recorded a video for them to watch where I walked them through it. And then, I spent, for the students that came to class face-to-face and the procedure classes, we spent an hour talking about it in class, asking students repeatedly, do you have any questions? Did I explain this well? And I tell my students to encourage them to ask questions. I tell them what I really mean when I ask them, did you understand or do you have any questions? I explain to them, I said, I'm not really asking them if they understand. What I'm really asking is, hey student, did I explain that well? Because I'm always afraid as a professor that I'm not going to explain things well. But I had a third of my students whose papers I graded this weekend that just didn't read the instructions, didn't follow the instructions. Super frustrating. But not as bad as the research method students, who I gave very clear instructions for how I wanted them to submit their topics for the research proposals. Very specific format. The instructions very clear. Write a hypothesis using this pattern. tell me these things. Give me a list of these things. Give me a list of control variables. Just tell me what your independent variables. Tell me what your dependent variable is. List your control variables. Tell me why you think, in a couple of sentences, tell me why you think these two variables are related to each other. And half the class, well, honestly, 7 of them just didn't turn it in. And then 6 got 10%. And I gave them 10% because they turned something in. Didn't follow the instructions at all. And it's frustrating. Sometimes I wonder, because I made the instructions so detailed, because when I wrote them, I'm like, all right, I'm going to make these instructions super detailed so that hopefully everyone can understand them. And I wonder if maybe in the effort to try to make the instructions detailed and clear, it actually made them too long, and the students didn't read them all. Because I combined, some instructional stuff with the instructions, as part of the lesson with the instructions. And I wonder if they just didn't read it. It's like with the case briefs. I wonder if they took the template and didn't either watch the video or read the instructions. Hopefully, with the corrective action that I took this week, hopefully we fix that issue. Or at least encourage students to come see me during my office hours if they don't understand what I want from them. So that, because there's only 6 more of these case briefs all semester long for these students. So, they can afford to get one bad. They can't really afford to get them all. Because I'm also frustrated with those students because I've got these things called critical application points. And I got to earn like 30, up to 30 of these points every week. I even let them go 5 over for some pseudo extra credit. And they get 2 weeks to work on these things. They can come to class face to face and earn points by being prepared and able to answer questions or participating in in-class activities. There's a bunch of discussion boards, depending on which class. It's 3 or 4 discussion boards that they can participate in. They can form groups of students, groups of 3 students, and earn a bunch of points with about a third of the effort that it would take. And I warned them. It's in the syllabus. I should say warn them. It's in the syllabus. It's in the instructions. If you wait till the last minute to participate in these things, there will be a penalty. And I'd say at least a third, if not more, of students, particularly my fully online students, waited until the Friday and Saturday before the discussion boards closed out to participate, which is frustrating to me because that penalizes the entire class because they have to work as a team. Because if you don't make your initial post early in the unit, then other students don't have anything to respond to. And so sometimes I don't know what to do with these kids. I mean, they're not kids, they're adults, but compared to me, they're kids. But they're adult learners, and I don't want to treat them like children. Even though I try to catch myself, but I don't do it very well. I don't like calling them kids. The only reason I call them kids is because I'm, in most cases, 30 years older than they are, and so relative to me, they're kids, but they're adult learners. And so I don't want to insult their intelligence, and I'm certainly not going to follow them around and beg them to do their work or remind them all the time, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this, because then I'm doing their future employers a disservice. But man, I want these kids to succeed. Sometimes I don't know what to do. Well, that's as close as I get to a rant today, probably because I am quite tired. I've been working in the yard ish. I've been chopping wood and building that fire you see there. I've still got a bunch to do. Had some dead trees in the yard, dropped a bunch of logs over the last couple of months. And, I gotta tell you, for a lumberjack, that swinging an axe thing is hard. Screw this, I'm getting a chainsaw. That's a lot of work for an old, out of shape man. All right, well, this has been a random professor rants about his students. like, subscribe, do those things if you want to hear more. If you're a student, whether you're one of mine or someone else's, and you got suggestions for how I can be a better professor without reducing the academic rigor of my courses, put them in the comments below.